This is the definitive countdown of American air power. Legends, prototypes, and combat icons, each with a story written in fuel, steel, and fire. Let's begin. The Douglas C-47 Skytrain. A World War II veteran, it kept flying in Vietnam as a rugged hauler for troops, cargo, and medical evacuation. Its simple design let it use short, rough airstrips across South Vietnam. Many served with USAF allies and covert airlift units. The Douglas C-54 Skymaster. Before jets dominated airlift, this four-engine transport carried men and materiel into Vietnam in the early 1960s. It could move roughly 10 tons of cargo on long legs, linking Pacific bases to Saigon. The C-54 helped bridge the gap until newer airlifters arrived. The Fairchild C-119 Flying Boxcar. Recognizable by its twin booms, it hauled supplies and performed heavy airdrops during the early Vietnam years. The C-119 supported remote outposts where roads failed and runways were short. Its boxy fuselage was built for cargo fast loading, fast drops, and fast turnarounds. The Fairchild C-123 Provider. This workhorse flew low and slow, delivering troops and cargo into short jungle strips. It also became infamous in Operation Ranch Hand, starting in 1962, spraying defoliants to strip cover from enemy routes. The C-123's tough airframe made it a front-line utility aircraft, not a glamorous one. The Lockheed C-130 Hercules. Entering Vietnam in force by the mid-1960s, it transformed tactical airlift with heavy payloads and short-field performance. C-130s resupplied besieged bases, airdropped pallets, and pulled off low-altitude delivery techniques under fire. In Vietnam, Hercules didn't mean speed, it meant reliability and muscle. The Lockheed C-141 Starlifter. Introduced in 1965, it brought jet speed to military logistics, rushing troops and cargo between the U.S. Pacific hubs and Vietnam. It could carry about 150 troops or massive pallets at high cruise speeds. The C-14101, it could carry about 150 troops or massive pallets at high cruise speeds. The C-141 OG, a critical long-range medevac platform, saving time and lives. The de Havilland Canada C-7 Caribou. Built for extreme short takeoffs and landings, it reached tiny airstrips carved into Vietnam's hills and valleys. The Caribou could carry around 30 troops or bulky cargo where larger transports couldn't go. After a 1967 transfer from the U.S. Army to the USAF, it kept flying the hard missions. The Cessna 01 Bird Dog. Slow, small, and brave, it served as a forward air control aircraft, spotting targets and directing strikes from treetop height. 01 pilots marked enemy positions with smoke rockets, then guided fighters onto them. In Vietnam, the Bird Dog's weapon was visibility and the nerve to stay overhead. The Cessna 02 Skymaster. Introduced for Vietnam-era fax work, it added twin-engine reliability to the dangerous job of target marking and strike control. From about 1967 onward, O2s guided fast movers, carried flares for night missions, and hunted movement along contested routes. It wasn't flashy, just persistent, and often shot at. The North American T-28D Trojan. A trainer-turned-attack aircraft, it became a key counterinsurgency platform in Southeast Asia in the early 1960s. Armed with rockets, bombs, and guns, T-28Ds delivered close support for Allied ground forces. Its strength was simplicity, easy maintenance, tough construction, and the ability to hit hard at low altitude. The North American OV-10 Bronco. Arriving in Vietnam in 1968, it was built for forward air control and light attack, with long loiter time and excellent visibility. Marines and Air Force crews used it to find targets, mark them, and strike with rockets or bombs. The Bronco's twin turboprops made it survivable, not fast. The Douglas A-1 Skyraider. A piston-engine throwback, it became a Vietnam legend for one reason: time on station. A-1s escorted rescues as Sandy, circling down pilots and hammering threats with a massive ordnance load, often cited near 8,000 pounds. In a jet war, the Sky Raider's endurance was priceless. The Douglas A4 Skyhawk. Small and carrier-capable, it delivered heavy a 3-atom CON for its size, flying countless Navy and Marine strike sorties over Vietnam. A4s were among the aircraft used in early retaliatory raids in 1964, launching from crowded carrier decks. Simple, agile, and hard-working, the Skyhawk became a symbol of naval air power. The Grumman A6A Intruder. Entering Vietnam combat in 1965, it brought true all-weather day-or-night strike capability to the carrier air wing. Using advanced attack systems, A6 crews hit targets when clouds, rain, and darkness grounded others. With a heavy payload often cited around 18,000 pounds, the Intruder was built to punch through. The LTV A7 Corsair II. First seeing Vietnam combat in 1967, it delivered accurate strikes with modern navigation and a head-up display that improved attack precision. The A7 carried a serious bomb load for a single-engine jet and had range well suited to carrier warfare. It later flew intense operations during the 1972 air campaigns. The Cessna A37 Dragonfly. Debuting in combat during 1967's Combat Dragon evaluation, this compact jet excelled at close air support and interdiction. It carried rockets, bombs, and the gun, delivering fast reactions with surprisingly tight turning. In Vietnamese and US hands, the A-37 proved that small aircraft could be lethal and economical. The Douglas A-26A Counter-Invader. A rebuilt, strengthened attack bomber, it returned to war over Southeast Asia in the mid-1960s. For night interdiction, operating heavily in the region's border battles, it hunted trucks and supply lines with bombs, rockets, and guns. Fast for its class and brutally effective, the Counter-Invader was a second-life predator. The Boeing B-52 Stratofortress. Beginning in 1965 with Operation Arc Light, it turned Vietnam's battlefields into craters with massive bomb loads, often around 60,000 pounds. B-52s struck base areas and logistics hubs, culminating in the intense Linebacker II raids of December 1972. In Vietnam, the Stratofortress wasn't subtle. It was overwhelming. The Martin B-57 Canberra. One of the first U.S. jet bombers to operate from Vietnam, it flew strike and night attack missions from bases like Bien Hoa in the mid-1960s. The B-57 delivered conventional bombs with speed that prop aircraft couldn't match. It paid for that reach with risk-jet bombers operating close to the fight, drew heavy fire. The Douglas AC-47 Spooky. Introduced in 1964, it pioneered modern gunship warfare by orbiting a target and firing sideways. With three 7.62mm miniguns, it could unleash thousands of rounds per minute to break attacks on outposts. Nicknamed Puff the Magic Dragon, the AC-47 made the night itself feel armed. The Fairchild AC-19 Shadow Stinger. Arriving in Vietnam in 1968, it turned the C-119 transport into a night gunship for convoy escort and base defense. The Shadow carried miniguns for suppression, while the Stinger added 20mm cannon for heavier hits. Slow, loud, but deadly after dark. The Lockheed AC-130 Spectre. First deployed in 1968, this gunship became the ultimate night hunter over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Its side-firing cannons and sensors let it loiter for hours and shred trucks with precision. Few aircraft inspired more fear in enemy logistics columns. The North American F-100 Super Sabre. America's first supersonic fighter entered Vietnam early, flying strike, close air support and escort missions from 1964 onward. It delivered bombs and rockets low and fast, often under heavy fire. The Hun became a workhorse before newer jets took over. The McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Entering combat in 1965, it served both Navy and Air Force as a fighter, bomber, and interceptor. With two engines and heavy payload, it could fight MiGs one day and strike targets the next. The Phantom became the symbol jet of the war, the Republic F-105 Thunder Chief. From 1965, it carried the bulk of early Air Force strike missions over North Vietnam. Built for speed, it hauled a massive bomb load and screamed into the most defended airspace on Earth. Thud losses were high, but its impact was decisive. The Vought F-8 Crusader, called the last gunfighter, it brought a 20mm cannon punch to Navy air combat from the mid-1960s. The Crusader scored notable MiG kills while also flying attack missions. Fast and agile, it kept carriers protected during intense air battles. The Lockheed F-1A4 Starfighter. A Mach 2 interceptor, it saw limited Vietnam use, mainly for air defense and escort in the mid-1960s. Its blistering speed came with short range and tricky handling. In Southeast Asia, it was impressive, but not ideally matched to the mission. The Northrop F-5A Freedom Fighter. In 1965, the US tested it in Vietnam under the Scotia Tiger program. Small, cheap, and agile, it proved effective for light strike and close air support. Its success helped pave the way for Allied use across the region. The Convair F-102 Delta Dagger. Designed to stop Soviet bombers, it was pressed into Vietnam for air defense and patrol missions starting in 1962. The Delta Wing Interceptor carried guided missiles, not a gun. It rarely saw air-to-air action, but guarded key bases and airspace. The General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark. Debuting in Vietnam in 1968, it brought terrain-following radar and swing wings for low-level, high-speed strikes at night. Early losses forced fixes, but the concept worked. It could hit targets in bad weather when other jets stayed grounded. The McDonnell RF-101 Voodoo. One of the first US jets over Vietnam, it flew dangerous photo recon missions from 1961 onward. Unarmed and fast, it relied on speed and altitude to survive. The RF-101 provided vital targeting intelligence when the war's air picture was still unclear. The McDonnell Douglas RF-4C Phantom II. Entering Vietnam in 1965, this reconnaissance Phantom swapped missiles for cameras and sensors. It flew low and fast to photograph targets, bomb damage, and enemy movement. Unarmed but rugged, the RF-4C became the Air Force's eyes under fire. The North American RA-5C Vigilante. This Navy recon jet arrived mid-war, trading its nuclear strike routes for high-speed carrier-based intelligence. The RA-5C flew some of the most dangerous missions over North Vietnam, often alone. Loss rates were brutal, but its imagery guided major strikes. The Douglas A-3 Skywarrior. Nicknamed Whale, it served off carriers as a bomber early, then became a tanker and electronic warfare platform in Vietnam. Its size let it carry fuel, jammers, or cameras when smaller jets couldn't. The A-3 quietly enabled counter-sorties. The Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker. From the mid-1960s, it kept fighters and bombers in the air with jet fuel over Southeast Asia. Refueling tracks stretched mission range and time on station dramatically. The KC-135 rarely made headlines, but without it, many strikes and patrols wouldn't happen. The Lockheed KC-130 Hercules. The Marine Corps' workhorse tanker supported jets from forward bases and improvised strips throughout the war. It could refuel aircraft, haul cargo, and operate where bigger tankers couldn't. That flexibility made it indispensable for close air support and rapid logistics. The Lockheed EC-121 Warning Star. This radar picket aircraft flew in Vietnam to provide early warning and air control, especially against MiG threats. Its big rotating radome extended the battlefield's radar horizon. Slow and vulnerable, it stayed protected while coordinating fights far below and ahead. The Lockheed P-3 Orion. Introduced in the 1960s, It conducted maritime patrol and anti-submarine surveillance tied to the wider Vietnam conflict. Long endurance let it watch coastlines, track shipping, and hunt submarines. The P-3 helped secure sea lanes and intelligence beyond the front lines. The Lockheed U-2 Dragon Lady. Flying at extreme altitude, it gathered strategic intelligence during the Vietnam era beyond the reach of most defenses. Its cameras and sensors mapped targets, routes, and air defenses with chilling clarity. The U-2's quiet presence shaped decisions long before bombs fell. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. Entering service in 1966, it conducted high-speed reconnaissance during the Vietnam period. Capable of flying above Mach 3 at extreme altitude, it could cross hostile territory and outrun threats. The SR-71 delivered intelligence so fast, it rewrote the meaning of real time. The Sikorsky CH-34 Choctaw. One of the first American helicopters in Vietnam, it began hauling troops and supplies in the early 1960s. Powered by a piston engine, it was rugged but vulnerable, often flying with door gunners. The Choctaw bridged the gap to the turbine era that followed. The Belle UH-1 Iroquois. Debuting in Vietnam in 1962, the Huey became the icon of airmobile warfare. Over 7,000 were built, and its turbine engine gave it speed and reliability earlier helicopters lacked. It moved troops, evacuated wounded, and fought as a gunship often in the same mission. The Bell Ahaz 1G Cobra. Fielded in Vietnam in 1967, it was America's first purpose-built attack helicopter. Slim, fast, and armed with rockets and a chin turret, the Cobra escorted Hueys and hunted targets close to friendly lines. It changed helicopter warfare by separating gunship firepower from troop transport. The Boeing CH-47 Chinook. Arriving in Vietnam in 1965, the twin-rotor Chinook hauled artillery, pallets, and troops into places no truck could reach. Its tandem-rotor design delivered heavy lift with surprising speed and stability. The Chinook became the workhorse for moving big loads under fire and in bad weather. The Sikorsky CH-54 Tahoe. Known as the Sky Crane, it entered Vietnam near the war's peak to lift what others couldn't. With a skeletal fuselage and external sling loads, it hauled downed aircraft, vehicles, and heavy artillery. When speed mattered, the CH-54 could recover wrecks before the enemy reached them. The Boeing Vertol CH-46 Sea Knight. Introduced to Vietnam with the Marines in 1964, it became a frontline assault transport for ship-to-shore and inland moves. The tandem rotors gave it lift in humid, high-load conditions where single-rotor aircraft struggled. Marines trusted it for hot extractions and rapid reinforcement. The Sikorsky CH-53 Sea Stallion. First flown in 1964 and deployed to Vietnam by the late 1960s, it brought true heavy lift to Marine operations. Its massive cabin and rear rump carried troops, vehicles, and big sling loads. Under fire, the Sea Stallion often meant the difference between abandoned gear and a clean recovery. The Sikorsky SH-3 Sea King. Entering service in 1961, it operated off carriers during Vietnam as an anti-submarine and rescue helicopter. Its amphibious hull allowed water landings, a lifesaver for crews down at sea. Sea Kings helped guard the fleet and pulled pilots from the water when strikes went wrong. The Sikorsky HH-3E Jolly Green Giant. Introduced mid-1960s, it became a legend in combat search and rescue over Southeast Asia. Refuelable in flight and fitted with armor and guns, it went deep into danger to retrieve downed airmen. The Jolly Green missions were brutal and often flown under relentless fire. The Sikorsky HH-53 Super Jolly Green Giant, brought into Vietnam-era rescue work in the late 1960s, it added more power and payload than the HH-3. With in-flight refueling and heavy defensive guns, it could push farther and lift more survivors at once. The Super Jolly became the hard-hitting backbone of CSR.